Maryland, June 30th, Route 40 north to Route 77. We are back in Maryland again, and it is finally a beautiful day. The temperatures had dropped this morning and it was cold out, and the temperatures for today was forecasted to be in the low 80s with no humidity and a nice breeze. This is my favorite section of this trip. Today will be a 9-mile day. Dave dropped me off at the Annapolis Rock US 40 parking area, and he is driving over to Wolfsville Road, the Route 17 AT parking area. I walked a trail from the parking lot to the junction of the AT. The AT bridge over Interstate 70 is near this junction to the south. I saw a man on the bridge waving at the traffic before I headed north on the trail. The trail climbed from here, and I reached Pine Knob Shelter. It was in a nice area. However, you could hear the traffic on Interstate 70. I did not go near the shelter, as hikers were just packing up for the day, and I did not want to disturb them. A local hiker came up behind me, and he told me that he hikes 3 times a week to Annapolis Rock. I also met 3 female thru hikers who were completing the Maryland section of the AT this morning. I reached Annapolis Rock, which was about 1/4 of a mile off the trail downhill to the view. It was a nice view, however, we have seen better views. I was a bit surprised to see the caretaker tent here. Another male day hiker arrived at the view, and I had thought that a lot of local people walk out to the view. I reached Black Rock, and it really did not have any views. Then I reached Pogo Memorial Campsite, and it looked like a nice campsite. A mother and her daughter had a fire going here. I continued on the trail and met the female hikers who had completed their piece for today and finished Maryland. They told me that their name should be named the Hares and that my trail name should be the Tortoise, because they said that I move as slow as a turtle. I was so happy to see Dave coming toward me on the trail. We sat down and ate our lunch. Dave warned me about the rocks that I would be coming to. We split up again, and I passed several thru hikers and 2 local male hikers who asked me if I knew where the trail went and if I had seen any views on this section. I reached a descent with a lot of rocks and big boulders. This must be the section that Dave had warned me about. It was a really difficult section on my feet. Then I climbed some more rocks and boulders, and then the trail smoothed out with no rocks. I started to listen to my music. The first time for this, it did help me to move better over the rocks and kept me motivated to keep going. Normally, I love to just listen to the sounds of the woods and alert to people coming up behind me. However, the music did help in the boring areas where all you could see was the path and trees. I reached a new trail that came onto the AT. We had had trouble finding the AT when we arrived at Route 77 because you had to take an access trail to the AT. The sign near the road only indicated the AT to the south, but it went to the AT junction in both directions. I met a thru hiker on the way out who told me that he had no money to stay in hotels, so he mostly just slept in the woods. I came out and drove to Route 40 to pick up Dave. He had just come out of the trail when I arrived. The police and the park rangers were at the trailhead. We never found out what had happened or who they were looking for. We drove to the next section of the trail that we needed to do today, Route 77 south to Route 17. Dave is driving to Route 17 going north on the AT, and he dropped me off on Route 77 where I will be heading south. I started off through 2 fields. I saw some milkweeds in the field, and they smelled really good and had a lot of butterflies on them. I descended into the woods, and I passed the same thru hikers we had seen earlier today. I told him that we were section hiking and had moved the car to this section. I met up with Dave, and he had told me that he had also seen a hiker that he has seen earlier. I reached Ensign Cowell. It was very nice. A female hiker that I saw on the trail on the 28th had told me that one of the shelters had cold and hot water. I do not know if she knew what she was talking about, because there is only one other shelter left, and I did not know of any other shelters in Maryland that had hot water. Someone had written on some toilet paper that the Devil's Racecourse shelter was really bad. I left the shelter and later saw some deers running down the trail. I had also seen some turkeys and vultures near the power lines. We had just done this small section so that we can connect it with tomorrow's section.